Welcome, everybody, to Protective Services on March 20th at 12 noon. We're going to call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda. I have one thing on it. We're going to move to a closed session after this session for a closed session, I guess. Is that okay with everybody?
I think that you have to give 24-hour notice.
For closed session?
Yeah, I think we better get some guidance here. Yeah,
Oh,
you just, that way you can post it under what section of 119 subsection 1A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Can we get that verified?
Is that in the MGA?
Yeah. Yeah, everything has, it's, again, Mr. Chair, it's like what was brought up under new business at the last meeting regarding the arbitration. That should have been a notice of a motion. That
Okay.
was like new information. Again, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we are now scrutinized by the Municipal Government Act.
Understood, Your Worship. What we were discussing was where it fits in, if it's new business. It is something that is just, it's a new item that we wish to discuss. It wasn't something we had prepared for.
Yeah. It has to be put on the agenda. That's why I've been told by our CAO that if I want to bring up something under new business, I have to give a notice of motion so that it can be brought up. And again, our Director of Finance and Administration can look into that.
so just delay it then?
If we can.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, I haven't checked our procedural bylaw, so there may be a requirement there for it to be provided in advance. The section 119 of the MGA does allow for movement to a closed session at all or part of a meeting, either in advance or at the meeting. So it is enabled within the MGA, but I will check the procedural bylaw to see if we're restricted there.
I think that's what it is.
So you said it could be brought forward, Dan, either in the meeting or beforehand?
That's what the MGA says, but our procedural bylaw may restrict that, so I'm going to check on that now.
So where are we going?
You continue and we can come back to it.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Great, thank you. So, declarations of conflict of interest, any?
None.
See none. Approval of the previous draft minutes for February 21st, 2024.
Moved.
Moved by Mayor Brown, second by Deputy Mayor Yankoff. Business arising from those minutes?
Okay, Mr.
Your
Chair, I'd
worship.
like to just again allude to list of abandoned, uninhabited buildings within the city of Charlottetown. I'm going to keep bringing it up every month. What's the status?
That's on the agenda, Your Worship.
Yeah, but
Under B.
again, I just want to make sure that there is one that I think we missed, and it's there on 164 Nassau Street. So, I
It's
know,
on
no,
there.
I know that. I'm just making sure that I will be bringing it up at every meeting so that we can go through the list, because that's what we committed to.
Yeah, the
This-
chief would be discussing that with us
Okay.
under B.
And the second item is under the new business, number 7, where the fire chief, Mamie, raised the issue of the arbitration agreement. I think in the arbitration agreement, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll be going to a 24-hour schedule, and there would be 3 firefighters dedicated to those shifts. Is that the arbitration, is that what the arbitrator has agreed to, 3 or 4?
Your Worship, through the Chair, there is no staffing requirement in the arbitration award. There's a 24-hour shift award.
So we don't have to go with 3, we don't have to go with 2. Is there a magic number that I think I've heard that there is a number of 3 to 4 that we have to have on shift or,
This is, Your Worship, sorry to interrupt, this is part of the discussion that would be better served, I think, with the labor management issue as it is in a closed session, but the arbitration award simply stated the 24-hour shift, no minimum staffing requirements.
okay. So could I just add, then, which is public information, we want to add 2 supervisors. Is that right? to fire?
That was part of our new initiative request for this year, Your Worship. Actually, when you divide and you start putting 4 platoons in, you actually require 4 as the structure develops, but 2 would be a minimum to get us started. We reverted from 4 due to the list of new initiatives throughout the city that we were trying to support as a leadership group.
And would that be hired within or without, like, or is it a combined competition?
We're still in discussions with HR about how the positions would be posted.
And just a last question about that, would they be union or non-union positions as supervisors?
Once again, sit in the same conversation with HR.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Beck?
Yeah, just going back to 6B, Chief. Last time we were asking about the generators, and there was a question about why we're carrying the cost of East Lincoln Carry, and it was just noted that there was going to be some clarification with finance and report back. Could you provide an update on that for us?
Yes, Councillor Beck through the chair. We did, I met with both Public Works Manager and Assets Manager, and Public Works has advised that that is, as the totals were reduced greatly in the budget as we prepared it, that was the city's commitment to helping with infrastructure and rewiring or electrical upgrades that were required for generator usage at those facilities.
You good with that, Councillor Beck? Any other questions on business arising from the minutes? See none. Okay, we go right to reports. Operational report, Deputy Fire Chief Kent Mitchell.
Your Worship, Chair. This report includes February 1st inclusive to February 29th. There's a total number of 11 fire inspections, of which 3 general inspections, 1 hazard compliance order issued, 7 inspections were closed. There were 8 plan reviews, 6 fire investigations, and 15 education sessions. Total number of emergency responses in this time period were 70. Of Station 1, there were 35. Engine 1 from 8 to 4, there were 7. Engine 1 from 12 to 8 a.m. were 3. And Station 2 had 25. Training in this time period included Level 1 firefighting training, which continued for our new recruits with practical training taking place, and we're looking forward to having those people progress into the regular ranks fairly soon, probably in the next month or so. As well, we have current firefighters taking practical training, Level 2 firefighter. There's some upcoming courses such as Incident Safety Officer, Advanced CPR, and Solar Panel Safety Awareness courses. And we're also looking into having several firefighters attend the annual Fire Department Information Conference being held June 7th and June 8th at Acadia University. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank and recognize our firefighters for their continued service and professionalism. We've had some very challenging incidents, and our team has performed exceptionally well. The department also participated in the Fire Smart workshop for PEI municipalities. Fire Smart Canada is a national program that helps Canadians increase neighborhood resilience to wildfire and minimize its negative impacts. We also had a retirement party for our retired fire prevention officer, Cindy McFadgen. It was held on February 29th and well attended, and we thank everybody that attended that. During this period, we also had 25 healthcare workers receiving fire prevention training past month. Thank you. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Any questions for the Deputy Chief?
Mr. Chair, I know you and I attended that celebration recognition for Cindy McFadgen, and I know that Winston Bryan and the team were part of setting up the facility. It was a great job and well attended, so best of retirement for Cindy. Thank you.
And I echo those comments. Go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if we can, when we get our monthly reports from the chief of police, things are kind of broken down in a graph form, like different incidents, property damage. So you can kind of see the graph going from month to month. And I kind of like looking at that myself, and there's kind of it's kind of tabulated. I'm wondering if we can create something similar, Kent, where like we can see kind of graph form, general inspections, plans, purviews, or reviews, permits, consults, fire investigations, and then we can just sort of see how they vary and if there's any sort of abnormalities or aberrations or anomalies, if you will. A lot of A's there, a lot of alliteration going on. There you go. So anyway, if we could get something like that, I think that would be nice to have. Maybe you can talk to the chief and tap into his expertise, see what he does, and maybe concoct something similar for fire as well, too.
That's a good idea, Deputy Chief. You okay with that?
Thanks, Councillor Beck. Yes, we can, was set up as more of an overview.
Yeah.
The basic, what's going on through that period. We can get some more details.
Right.
And, can kind of give us the actual type of calls we've gone to.
Yeah.
That type of thing, and
Yeah.
you can see some trending maybe happening.
Yeah, exactly.
And, that type of thing.
Yeah.
It'll actually show you the type of fires we've had or alarm calls.
Yep.
Kitchen fires or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Medical calls, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So we'll get that information.
Yeah,
on the-
because this is, I mean, it's good to have, but it's just kind of
Yeah.
a snapshot, and then the other one kind of allows us to see patterns over time and
Yep.
whatnot. I just had one other question too, Kent, if you don't mind, through the chair. There was something, we've had a lot of people who have benefited from the Switch program, installing a lot of solar panels in around town, and I'm just seeing something there that there's solar panel safety awareness. Is there something that, I don't know, residents need to be aware of? Is there any sort of, potential pitfalls that might be that I see, we have our comms person here that we may have to communicate to people to be aware of. I mean, it just is part of like, we always do change your clocks, fire prevention week, all kinds of strategies to do that. I'm just wondering if there is anything that we or the residents need to be aware of with regards to solar panel safety.
Deputy Chief.
Thanks, Councillor Beck. As far as the homeowner goes, yes, the panels maintain energized at all times. So that would be one thing to be cognizant of if they had to go to the roof for a reason. And that's why it's a fire safety, or it's an issue for firefighters. Because we could have to go to the roof to perform tactical ventilation if there's ever a fire in that building. So that's, we have to be aware of what concerns are there for us, for our safety as well, so.
Okay, that's good to know. Is there anything that the residents should be made aware of? I guess that's kind of it's good that we have the awareness side on the officers, but is there anything, I'm just kind of wondering about it on the residential side, or the commercial side, if people have installed them on their roofs you see that at various business establishments right across town, and just if there's anything that we need to bring to the forefront.
Thanks, Councillor Beck. We will, with cooperation with Communications Department, come up with some information that we will get out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beck. Deputy Mayor Yankoff, you okay? Okay. We'll go to B now. Abandoned, uninhabited buildings within the city of Charlottetown. Police Chief Brad McConnell. Chief?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is the first of 4 of our reports in your package. Is to give committee and council an update on the abandoned uninhabited buildings within our city of Charlottetown. Attached to the report is a list of those abandoned uninhabited buildings within the city of Charlottetown complied by the bylaw officer as compiled by the bylaws as requested by council. There are currently 11 properties identified. Each property is at a different stage of the process, but no property currently meets the criteria to be forwarded to council for resolution under the dangerous, hazardous, or unsightly premises bylaw at this time. I can go through the properties one by one, or I can respond to questions, Chair, whatever you would wish. There are 11.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, and 83 Houston Street, I mean, that's a given. So you can almost scratch that off the list, Your Worship, am I correct saying that? 83 Houston Street, the old Irving Station. Because that's in the works, right? So that,
Yeah, I don't know where it's at.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But I
perhaps,
know,
Chair-
I know they did follow up March 11th. That's in the notes.
okay. Okay, maybe we will let the chief just go through. Chief, if you don't mind?
Certainly, Chair. So the first property at 31 Cartwood Drive is a hazard compliance order was sent on September 8, 2023, is in progress. A follow-up inspection was conducted on March 7th, and that is the status of that particular property. The second property on the list is 83 Houston Street, the old Irving gas station. A hazard compliance order was issued the week of October 24th, a follow-up inspection on March 11th, 2024. The third property at 231 Richmond Street, hazard compliance order was issued the week of October 24th, 2023. Follow-up inspection scheduled for the week, was scheduled for the week of February 19th, 2024. The fourth property, 470 Malpeck Road. The file is closed and removed from the list. The fifth property, 148 Prince Street. A hazard compliance order was issued the week of October 24th. Follow-up inspection conducted March 11th of this year. 265 Houston Street. The file is closed on that particular property. The building is being demolished. 54 Maple Avenue, a hazard compliance order was issued the week of October 24th with follow-up inspection on March 8, 2024. 4 Oakland Drive, a hazard compliance order was issued in the week of October 24th with a follow-up inspection scheduled for the 18th of March of this year. 2224 Chestnut Street, a hazard compliance order was sent on September 8th, 2023, and a follow-up inspection was conducted on March 12th of this year. And the 10th property at 12 Greenfield Avenue, the file is closed, removed from the list. The home is not vacant and is currently occupied now. The 11th property at 164 Nassau Street. There was an inspection done on March 12, 2024, resulting in the building being declared vacant. A hazard compliant order was issued on March 12th, following the inspection scheduled with a follow-up inspection scheduled for March 27th, 2024. Hazard compliance order can be issued under the fire bylaw once the building has been secured after 18 months. Under 5.9 of the dangerous, hazardous, and unsightly members bylaw allows this to be referred to council to be ordered for repair or demolition.
Thanks for that, Chief. And just going through them when you're doing it, is just that, like, there's some properties already looked after, right? Like, number 10 is looked after, and other ones, there's some files closed on it. And so any questions for the chief?
Mr.
Maybe
Chair.
you can, once we're done, you can explain, well, it does explain how everything works. But thank
Yeah.
you.
Chair, I'm going back to our list last year. We did have 479 University Avenue, so that was removed from the list, which is the old Pickett's property. 203 Houston Street, that's on the corner of Houston and Walton Drive, that was removed. And I'm just, is there a status, like I haven't seen it over the last couple of meetings, the status update on those two properties, Chief?
Your Worship, they're not part of the briefing, that report that I was giving, which tells me that the properties have been dealt with in one manner or another. Maybe, I don't know, for our fire inspector has any more details on that, but certainly I can get back to committee
Yeah,
on
those, especially those two. 54 Maple Avenue, that is I believe the old Doucette House. That is, our chief engineers here, I think that's up on the sale, up on the block. We're going to sell that property or get it removed from there, so that's definitely gone. On 231 Richmond Street, that's the Prince Edward Island Housing Corporation. I believe that's being appealed to IRAC, the demolition of that property, so you may want to just star that. And then the other one I have is 164 NASA Street. It's been unoccupied for a number of years, and it lies on a principal route going to both McDonald's restaurant and Tim Hortons coffee shop. So I don't know what the owner's going to do, but it definitely is not being occupied. And I know it looks secure, but some of these homes that we mentioned, we're in a housing crisis, and like, I don't know what we can do to push these homeowners to get them sold or renovate them to provide housing, but that's why, I keep coming back to this list.
Yes, Your Worship, a very challenging situation for our inspectors and bylaw officers as we continue to try to work with these homeowners to deal with their properties. But we can only work within the framework of what we have, and certainly, 164 Nassau Street, I think the process is being implemented, and certainly will have to run its due course before we can probably see some progress or some movement on that property.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd share His Worship's concern in that, certainly the 164 in Nassau. It was, I know that Kent and I have had discussions about this, and I've had discussions with Todd, our bylaw enforcement officer, and so I think the issue might be around our 18 months. Because by the time we get to issuing a hazardous compliance order, it takes another 18 months after that, but there's usually a period of time even before we get to that hazardous compliance order. So this building in particular has been vacant for 20-some years. As recently as late October, early November, there was word, we're renovating it. But there hasn't been a lick of work done on the property since. It's become a storage ground for machinery and parts and equipment. And I can appreciate, Chief, that you're working within the parameters that we have established. I think maybe we might have to look at changing our parameters. To His Worship's point, where we do have properties that for whatever reason I do not understand sit vacant. I don't think there's any financial gain. I don't get it. But we have to see if we can somehow get these properties back into our supply. I would add 144 Prince Street, Upper Prince Street, 148. That building's been sitting there vacant for a long time as well, too. And so I guess with some of these, and I don't know, I know parameter changing or bylaw changing takes time, and that really doesn't address much for the here and now, but it might be something that we may be looking at to change our structure a little bit, or change our regulations or our bylaws, whatever it might be, to put a little bit more urgency to some of these buildings, because I would love to see them. I'd love to see us being able to take advantage and convert those into housing supply to add into our residential needs. So, I think we have to keep, we can't let these hazardous compliance order slide, and we just have to keep on, because for whatever reason, the properties are okay being allowed to slide, and they've slid for a long time, and I think we've got to push the envelope a little on that and see if we can get these converted back into actual housing dwelling units for their intended purposes. So I support his worship in terms of keeping up on that, but I think we have to move a little bit, maybe act a little bit stronger. Thanks.
Thank you. Chief and Deputy Chief, I'm the same way, and it's just some of these properties, but there's nothing going to say that if they're torn down, that these people, the residents are going to build something on it. They couldn't leave them empty lot. But do we have, or police or fire, have the power to go in and say, okay, X property's been sitting here for 20 years or 5 years, abandoned? Do we have the authority to go in and say, either tear it down or fix it up, or there's got to be, is there more teeth to it that has to be happening, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is that, we just can't go into somebody's property that's been sitting there empty, I don't think, can we, unless we get complaints? I'm trying to understand it all too. But like the one on, on 31 Kirkwood, like she hasn't lived there in years, and some of the windows are even boarded up now, and they're getting complaints about mice and mosquitoes and all that, but she goes in, plants her flowers in the summertime. Like, that's been empty for years, and like, that's prime property right there for somebody, and I'm just wondering what power or what authority the police or the fire or council has to do this stuff. If you can sort of clear the waters and that.
Really, Chair, I think the process that we're following regarding, a problem-solving approach from our bio officers and our fire inspectors and our building inspectors to firstly try to work with the residents to raise awareness to the issues, encourage them to deal with their properties. A certain amount of due diligence, I think, is expected to be at the front end of that. But then, depending on the stage of the building, whether it's unsightly or abandoned or if it's deemed a public health risk, then certainly the hazard compliance orders and the follow-up on that. But again, the framework is there that is invoked, that gives them an opportunity to deal with it once that, or be brought to council to make a decision whether we make the renovations or repair it or have it demolished. So I don't know if that answered your question. I think, it's disappointing that a lot of these properties have not moved the marker on compliance. But again, we can only work within the framework of what we have, and has put as much onus on the owners as possible. And ultimately, if they don't comply after that 18 months, then it comes to council to make that difficult decision.
Yeah, thanks for that. And some of the properties is that the owners don't care. And what happens if we go in and say, okay, this place got to be moved or demolished or whatever it is, and they say, no, you're not touching it. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look at, like on sample 31 Kirkwood Drive, and because I drive by it every day, and I drove by it this morning against, and it just, I don't know, do we have the authority, I guess, to go in and saying, you got to demolish that property? I don't know. I don't know what the bylaws are, because that's the deputy fire chief and our bylaw officer, that's their file, but.
No, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Your Worship.
We did exercise the process that was used for 282, 284 University Avenue. So there's a process in place. And I agree with Councillor Beck. I think the process is far too long. It's bureaucracy and the politics mixing together. But I want to make it clear, I'm not taking a wrecking ball approach here. This discussion has been going on for the last couple of years, and we did take action, and we thought we were going to go through the list and check them all off. So that's why I said under business arising, from the minutes, that this is going to be on the top of my list, just like for planning, development, and heritage standing committee on the Park Street issue, that we're there and we want to have this open and frank discussion. But I did, and if I didn't send it on to finance, St. John, New Brunswick did pass just recently a vacant buildings bylaw, that if it's vacant, the tax it's a differential tax. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel to use other levers of administration or execution to deal with this issue. There are other levers out there. So I will go back to that email that I received from the Office of the Mayor in St. John. The person, there's a contact person, and they're willing to have a Teams meeting with us to go over this whole process. So again, I thought it was sent out, but I'll resend it.
Thanks, Your Worship.
Thank you.
And maybe if I can sort of suggest the deputy fire chief and the bylaw officer, maybe we can, if there's any way we can move quicker on these files. And as Councillor Beck said too, like 180 days and all that, like that's way too long. It just, you know, like you don't want another accident that happened years ago by people abandoning buildings. I know there's no break and enters in any of them so far, but that's not saying it's not going to happen. Deputy Chief?
Thanks, Chair. Right now, once it's deemed vacant and it's been properly secured against entry, unauthorized entry, as it's stated in your package there, the unsightly bylaw, it does have the 18 months in there, so that would have to be amended. Or
And I think that's to what his worship was saying about, I think procedurally, we have to make changes that will allow us, because right now, if we're looking, call it the 18-month clock. The 18-month clock on 164 Nassau Street was initiated on March 12th, 2024. Am I correct? Right. So that property now has 18 months to do something with it, when it's been sitting there for 20-plus years, vacant and uninhabited. I see a problem with that. And I think going back to, I agree with what the chief says in trying to work with the property owners and stuff like that. I think we look at that being the start of the 18-month clock, as opposed to going through all this process and then having the building stalled. And again, I go back, I can't for the life of me understand why they want to keep the properties vacant, but for some reason they are, and it's happened. So making changes to our procedural bylaw on this, I think it goes from the time when we're starting to have the discussions about it, because it's been brought to our attention as an issue. It's not just we're picking out a property to talk about. It's been brought to our attention for a reason. So, for lack of a better word, I think that 18-month clock, which could become a 12-month clock, whatever duration of that clock is, then that starts when we've initiated the discussions. Because right now, it's like dealing with our hazardous waste pickups. By the time it comes into us to be approved here at council, it can be 2 months, 2 or 3 months. Same sort of thing, but on a much larger scale. So I would be fully supportive of a meeting with St. John's. I would be fully supportive of making changes to our procedural bylaw to allow you guys to more effectively do your job. And I get, you guys are working within the parameters that you're prescribed, so don't take this as any kind of saying you guys aren't doing your job. You are. But I think we have to, if we're going to allow you guys to do your job properly and to have the public benefit come back to the city, then I think it's incumbent upon us to make some changes in that regard. And whatever that looks like, I think we get at it and see if we can make them. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Beck. You okay, Deputy Mayor? Okay.
No, I have.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your screen's up.
Yeah, thanks. So Chair, if I hear the committee correctly, we are going to ask staff to make some changes to this the bylaw and bring it back through committee and then through council, just to address some of the issues that we're having with the 18 months process? Is that what we're doing?
That's my understanding. It would be the dilapidated, dangerous, and unsightly bylaw.
Great. I'll support that.
And also looking at the forwarding what they're doing in St. John, New Brunswick as a taxation lever.
Thank you for that. Okay, we're.
Just to, on that, with the goal of expediting this process, I think that should be kind of, that's what I would like to see in there, is how we can move this along, because we're just in a stalling pattern currently.
We're spinning our wheels, really.
Right, and we keep going back, and these properties keep coming back. We could bring these properties back on a monthly basis, it's not gonna change much, Your Worship.
No, that's right.
Right? The question is, what are we gonna do with them?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think the impetus for change should be expediting the process. And,
So
and allowing Kent, the chief, Todd Sutcliffe, everybody to do their job more effectively so that they can enact upon things quicker.
All right. Everyone in favor of that? Okay, thank you. Next, Chief Brad McConnell, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to circle back to His Worship again. He had mentioned a couple properties, the Pickard Building being one that he was looking for. I just didn't get the second one, Your Worship. You
203 Euston Street, corner of Euston and Walton Drive.
Thank you.
Right in between two schools.
Thanks, Your Worship. I was speaking with the owner of that building, and it's still occupied at the moment. So there are a few people still living there, so that wouldn't be considered a vacant building as it stands. He's in the process of trying to sell it and this kind of thing. So he's on our list to follow up on a regular basis. So we'll have an update.
Deputy, I'm quite aware that I drive by it most days. It is occupied, and the bylaw enforcement officer has been there numerous times, but it falls under dilapidated. I don't know about dangerous, but unsightly. So 2 areas of the bylaw that it covers. And I know the owner, and there are some struggles there. So again, I'm not taking a wrecking ball approach to it. I just want to make sure that, children that go to that school, at Prince Street School, where I taught for 20 years, they walk by it. And it just, again, somewhere, there has to be some sort of sweet spot that we can find with the owner. Thank you.
Okay, Chief Brad McConnell.
Thank you, Chair. I'll continue on my second report. This report is provide council with a list of establishments requesting permissions for outdoor patios erected on public right-of-ways. The staff recommendation is that council approve the various requests for outdoor patios and authorize the mayor and CEO to execute any standard contract agreements required to implement the resolution. Staff are currently awaiting for a final draft bylaw from legal, which would see the merging of the street vendor bylaw and the COVID-19 temporary patio bylaw. However, due to time constraints, staff are recommending that the council approve 16 requests for outdoor patios until the end of 2026 season. The following is a list of the establishments requesting permission for an outdoor patio: Slaymaker and Nichols Gastro House, Brits Fish and Chips, Churchill Arms Pub and Restaurant, Casimir Restaurant, Merchant Man Pub, Piatto Pizzeria, Pharmacy and Fermentary, The Pony Boat, Sims Corner Steakhouse, Hop Yard Beer Bar, Avocado Italian, if I'm pronouncing that right, the Kettle Black, Upstreet Craft Brewery, the Gahan House, the Urban Eatery, the Sea Rocket Oyster House. And also, that our bylaws informs me that the concerns over patios that were not compliant by fitting within the allocated parking spaces will be fully corrected this year, and he's spoken to the merchants, and that there's all indication that they're going to meet those regulations. That's my second report, Your Chair.
Thank you, Chief. And that was my question to you. I think the bylaw already checked with these businesses that they're not going to be on an angle and then you're going to lose another parking spot. So they're going to be fitting right in where they're supposed to fit in. Am I correct?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Councillor Yankoff?
Thanks. Thanks for that report, and through the chair. The other, just a couple questions. If we don't have the new bylaw back from our legal team yet, why would we be approving these until 2026, until we see the new bylaw? Why wouldn't we just be approving them for this season until we do finally get that changes to the bylaw brought forward? And the other part of that was applying that lens to these patios in terms of accessibility. Just wanted to make sure that all of these patios are fully accessible to all folks that would require to use them. So those are my two. So my main question would be, why are we approving these until 2026 when we don't have the new bylaw in place?
Chief?
Chair, certainly was the staff's recommendation to issue, to extend it to 2026, probably to have a little window of time for implementation and have it in place, but certainly I can take it back or amend it to the end of the year, depending on council's direction. I think we're good either way.
Do we think we're going to get the report sometime from the legal, as the deputy mayor asked for? Or is it still a year down the road or 2 years?
Chair, certainly we're anticipating having it within the coming months, but it's been an extended period of time now, so I've lost a little optimism on it getting it in a timely manner, but certainly we'll stay on it and just to the accessibility concerns, all the patios are, before they're approved, they're given design plans and reviewed by our bylaw officer, and so there's a consistency and a formatting there to make sure that everyone is safe and we're not and it's accessible. So I'm not aware of any that are not.
Deputy Mayor, you good with that? Councillor Beck?
Yeah, I'm good with that, leaving. I think one of the things we've regularly talked about is, why do we have to keep coming back here to basically rubber stamp patio approvals? As long as those, my concern was addressed here today with the angular adherence to that, with the angular, because that was an issue last year in some of the patios. So I'm okay with giving a couple of years, and then when the bylaw comes in, anyone that's these 16 are under this agreement, and we deal with them if there's any one-offs in the meantime. But I think for the commercial side of things, I think it's good for them to know that they've got conforming patios. Go ahead and put them up every year and get them out whenever you want, or whenever they're allowed to be out.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, again, Chief, previous to COVID, we were at how many outdoor patios? Was it 14? Do you remember? Or Deputy, do you remember? Because the reason we raised the number of patios, outdoor patios, was because of COVID-19, so that businesses, I'm just trying to get a clarification, because I noticed that
Chair, Your Worship, if I can jump in there, you're testing my memory a little bit now. I don't remember the exact number, but I know it approximately doubled for the approved patios to allow for social distancing and compliance and keep businesses open during COVID. And I think through that process, we recognize that probably there was ability to extend the number of spaces and allow businesses to take advantage of our beautiful city and invite their customers and still have available parking and keep a safe environment downtown. It's a number, though, that we will try to kind of cement in the new bylaw to make sure it doesn't, that there's some goalposts to work within, and a blending of both licensed establishments and non-licensed establishments that can take advantage of this program.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just through the chair to the chief, look, I remember being on council when we initiated the first outdoor patio, and you probably remember it. It was down where we have, it's called St. James Gate. That was our first. And the outcry from the community about what are we doing? We're taking parking spaces away, and I can't drive around the corner 4 times to find my parking space, and you're taking 2, 3 away. Anyways, we got through that, and then we get through COVID, and it shows, and I know that the deputy would agree because she represents the area, it makes this city more walkable, enjoyable, and hopefully will slow down vehicular traffic so that we have a more pleasant place to socialize during the day or in the evening. Now, I don't go to all these places, but the Pony Boat, did they have one last year?
No, this,
I don't-
no,
I-
the one right beside them.
I am not sure, Your Worship, but.
Just asking. And my second question is, so for Sea Rocket Oyster House, they have one on, that goes around the corner, Victoria Row onto Queen. Is that what we're doing this year? Because there were some issues about, just clarification, it's a point of clarification. You may not have the answer, but just wanted, he is on Victoria Row, but I think he's on the pedestrian right-of-way. And then on Queen Street, he's on the parking side. So is it sort of the loop or the wraparound that we're going with it?
I think those are two separate ones.
But we only have Sea Rocket Oyster House, so is that
Right.
on Queen?
The Victoria Row ones don't fall under this, which was going to be my next question, not to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Which was, in terms of this bylaw that's coming, I mean, we've got patios on Victoria Row, we have patios on the public right-of-way, and we also have patios within private properties. So are we amalgamating and having one bylaw so that we're streamlining? That was the whole purpose of this bylaw being looked at, was to streamline the process, because we've got 3 different entities that look at these patios. So back to His Worship's question, in terms of Sea Rocket, the Sea Rocket patio, I believe that would be on this, would be the Queen Street one. And then the Victoria Row would fall under whether it's the Victoria Row bylaw, or whatever that might be. So I don't know if someone has the answer to that question today or not. Thank you.
And if we don't, we can get back, Chief?
Well.
Or would you know the
I
answer?
think the Sea Rocket, I think why it's probably in the forefront of some of the worship's mind and the councilor's mind is because there was some issues last year with some accessibility parking spaces. My understanding was that Public Works, Mr. Amsert, I think that has been sorted out and that those issues have been solved. And the second part of that question about the bringing these bylaws under the kind of the same umbrella, so it's not fragmented. I think there's a direction by the CEO to kind of pursue that avenue under a bylaw section. So that would take some of that separation out of there. I guess we'll stay tuned on that.
And one last question on the patios, Chief. Did we put a cap on how many we're allowing in the city. Was it 24 or something like that? Am I dreaming about that, or what am I? Was that was during COVID?
During COVID, we just sort of let it go open.
But I thought once they had them, they're basically allowed to apply every year.
Well, someone that got under COVID are on this list now.
Yeah. But I'm just wondering, like, so we're staying with what? What's the number we're
16.
staying with?
16.
16, is it?
That's correct. The new bylaw will outline the numbers of both the number of licensed establishments and unlicensed establishments that will, and that's the blending it will occur. We heard a lot from vendors of unlicensed establishment want to take advantage of this program, and our old bylaw didn't allow that because it required a liquor license. So, but the COVID-19 bylaw did not require that. So the blending of the two will allow those numbers to be more apparent for both licensed and unlicensed.
Thank you for that. I was just trying to get it clear in my own head. Okay. Any other
Chair?
questions on the patios?
Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So just didn't get my question answered on, is this bylaw also going to include the ones that exist right now fall under planning and heritage because they're on private property? So there's a number of them that fall under that department as well. Is that staying there, or are we putting it all under one to streamline the process?
Chief?
The patios that are that are not on the public right of way would fall under the planning bylaw or like a different entity. I think the idea is to get them under the control of one entity as opposed to separating, because they're different parameters. So I think the same could be accomplished, but by just kind of amalgamating who's looking after the bylaws as opposed to planning looking after some of the bylaws and police and public works looking after others. So I think hopefully that answers your question.
Good with that? All right. Moving on. Scooters, I guess, Chief.
Yes, Chair. Our third report is in reference to e-scooter rentals. There's a staff recommendation that council suspend all scooter rentals until a detailed scooter rental bylaw can be drafted and implemented. In February 2023, permission was granted for a scooter rental business to operate throughout Charlottetown as a pilot project. Over that summer months of 2023, our police service had received numerous complaints concerning these scooters, including no helmets, riding on sidewalks, riding on boardwalk, riding through red lights, riding through stop signs, underage operators, scooter drivers can't be seen at night, and driving while impaired. Under the PEI Highway Traffic Act, the province has implemented electric kick scooter regulations for the rider of the scooter, not the company renting them. A bylaw would give the city more control over hours of operation, how they are rented out to the public, areas that the scooters can and cannot travel, and who can rent them. By putting a rental bylaw in place, the city can provide a safe environment for scooter operators and the public.
Okay, so we're looking at suspended for this until the bylaw, until we get a bylaw done? Any questions on that? Go ahead, your worship.
Okay, so how long is the bylaw going to take? That's going to take some time. So we're looking at suspending a young business entrepreneur for this summer's operations. And the city's also, Chief, also looking at a bike share program. And we put it on hold. But the last time I was in Toronto, and in Montreal, there's bike share there. And people are riding bikes all over the city with no helmets on. And if we look at our own city, we have lots of cyclists that are on the streets, on the sidewalks, in the parks without helmets. So we got a big issue with no helmets, other than just scooters, e-scooters. So, like, we have to look at the bike share issue too. So, like, Are we gonna have helmets there that someone's gonna have to spray every day, like going down to Murphy's Community Center to go bowling? When they spray the shoes, like, guys, I don't know what the fix is, but what are some best practices in other communities for e-scooters? And I'm sure they have bike share too. And that's probably an unfair question right now, so if you can't answer it, I'll be more than willing to wait until you get an answer to come back to the standing committee.
Yeah, and with our discussions too, is that some cities are banning them outright, even the privately owned ones, the scooters, because they find them unsafe, I think is what we heard. And as far as the bike sharing thing, that's it. Like, there's more to it than no helmets, your worship. Like some people who are renting these scooters, is what we heard, is that they're all over the pond, which is all listed here, riding on sidewalks, riding on the boardwalks, going through red lights, cars near hitting them, because they think they have the right of way. So I guess, and I'm like you, I don't know how long a bylaw has to take, but at the same time, it's gotta be looked at, because someone's gonna get hurt and hurt bad in these things. Because the ones that are renting them, what I see, they even drive by my place around 10 o'clock at night. They don't care. And the helmets are strapped in the back seat where they're going. So it's more than the helmets that has to be looked at, eh? And I understand what you're saying, because all bikes, we had a bylaw in there about you're supposed to wear a helmet, you're riding your bicycle. But that's not working either, so I don't know I don't know what we do with it. Anyone?
Just to follow up on that, Mr. Chair, just what you described there, going through red lights, not wearing lights, or not wearing helmets, that's what I experience when I drive my e-bike. I see that all the time. When I'm driving my vehicle, I see it all the time. So just to look at just the e-scooters as that's where the problem is? No, the problem is widespread. We will only be compounding that issue by the bike share, which I'm a big believer of bike share, because it's getting people out of cars, out of vehicles, getting them to use other modes of transportation to go from point A to point B. So I just have some difficulty with going forward on this issue. And cities, can you name me a couple of cities that banned them? Halifax? Toronto? Paris banned them. Toronto? Anyways, we should have that list too, to back up the recommendation. But I know how long it takes to get a bylaw done, and it won't be done soon. And I think that we...
Under Constable Dale Johnson too, and this is his file. And if you want, maybe we can have him in and he can explain the issues that he's been seeing and the complaints he's been receiving. And I understand yourself, what you're saying, your worship. There's a gentleman here that wanted this thing kicked off and going with it, and it's a new business for him, and he seems to be working well with the police. Everything they asked him to do, he seems to be doing it. But to answer your questions, I know there was a few cities named, and I can't recall them right now, because that's been 3 weeks ago. But, if it's all want to have Dale in maybe and explain to everybody, so we're all on the same page, reading off the same book, I don't know, because,
Could you ask him please to...
or send an email maybe, or whatever you want to do.
Ask him to look at the potential issues that would arise from the e-bike share, the bike share. Could you also ask him to address the current situation?
You're not on there, your worship.
Can you ask him also to address the issue of the current cycling situation in Charlottetown? Like,
Yeah.
I make it a point to wear a helmet. It's a no-brainer, unless you want to damage your brain by flying off a bike, but, which I have had happen to me. But thing is, we need to make it consistent, not just for e-scooters. It has to be e-bikes. It has to be traditional bicycles, or le vélo. We have to make sure it's consistent right across the board. And I appreciate the chief and him coming back with this, but it's up to you, Mr. Chair.
So what do you want to do?
Chair?
Oh, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
So, the bigger issue is that, and it states right here in our report, right now, the PEI Highway Traffic Act, under the province, has implemented that electric kick scooter regulations are there for a rider, but they're not there for a company. And no doubt that's exactly the same as e-bikes and maybe it's not. Maybe under the Highway Act, there's already regulations for folks that rent e-bikes. We don't have the answer to that question, so maybe we need that question answered as well. But this is going to be something that we're going to have to make a priority because there is a business owner waiting, and if this program is going to be put on hold until we have a bylaw, we better have all the information that we need from the Highway Traffic Act on all the other questions that have come forward today.
Those are great points. Councillor Beck?
Yeah, I wasn't on council when this was brought in, but my understanding is let's try it, see how it works. I think what's happened is there's been lessons learned from that pilot. And I think if you look at the true application of a pilot, there were no existing regulations. There were no maybe a lack of oversight or a lack of plan in terms of trying to get it around. To Taft's credit, he's done everything he could to try and make it work during the time. I think where we're at right now is we're at a point where we have to make some adjustments. And I agree with his worship there that when we're looking at, and I support pausing this, as much as I would love to say to Taft, continue on, keep doing what you're doing. You know, you've been a great partner on this, and I don't want to dismiss any of that, but I think we have to be responsible in terms of what we're doing. And right now, I think there has to be some improvement in our oversight of this stuff. If we're going to be approving, and if we're going to be going down a transit, a bike share program later on down the road, we better have our understandings in place as well too. So I fully support looking at a more comprehensive, not just a e-scooter bylaw, but a e-bike bylaw, regular traditional bike bylaw, and that would be an all-encompassing sort of thing. There may be some variations or particular clauses that may be particularly relevant to one mode of transportation over the other. However, I think in general, the principle should be universally applied. And but I think where we are right now is, and I think it's important for us to remember, we've learned some things from this pilot. It was, and again, I don't have the historical background of how it got started, but my understanding is we gave it a shot. Despite the best intentions, there's still some work that has to be done. So let's get the work done. Let's make sure we're doing it right and see if we can get this back it's probably not going to happen this year, I wouldn't suspect, but let's get it in and see if we can make changes for the future. Thanks.
And Chair, I don't believe that council made the decision on the pilot. I believe that was an operational decision. I don't remember that coming to council. Do you, Your Worship?
In the background, it's right there, February of 2023. That was just last year, the new council was on board. That's the first time it came in. Yes. It wasn't 2022. 2023 was the first year.
But permission wasn't given by council, it was given by staff, I believe. I don't think that was given by, there's no resolution.
And it was a recommendation that came through economic development.
Right, but it never, ever came to council. It was a pilot.
It was an operational issue.
Yeah, it was operational. Yeah.
So, again, whether it was February 2023, I don't remember being part of any sort of discussion or anything about it, so I assumed it was done beforehand. But, again, it was tried. They learned some things, and if we're going to move forward, let's do it right.
So what do you just want to do? Put it on pause? Because it was a pilot project. It stated right in there, pilot project. It was operational. We tried it. We want to clear the waters, I guess, and get more information and go from there, or are we just going to say status quo and just let them run with it
Chair?
again this year?
Chair?
I don't know. I'm asking. Committee, go ahead.
So staff's recommendation is to suspend all scooter rentals until the detailed scooter rental bylaw can be drafted. Should that staff recommendation should be expanded to anything that would fall under, or lack thereof fall under, not there, the PEI Traffic Act? So maybe it's other things besides these. I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there.
Your worship, or anybody?
Okay, so again, to follow up with Councillor Beck and the deputy mayor, the bike share will be, if it doesn't go this year, it's going to happen sometime, whether we do it or a private enterprise like the e-scooter. And we have traditional bikes that are still on the roads and streets and sidewalks where they're not following the laws. Like everything that's stated there, riding on the boardwalk, riding through red lights, that's happening all the time, whether it's an e-scooter or bicycle or an e-bike. So if we're going to do this, for one, we have to do it for all. It has to be comprehensive. So I just find that positive for this young entrepreneur that has made many amendments and has listened to any changes that we recommended to him to make it work. I think it's a difficult decision because he's put some capital out there, he's put his own money, he's got a lot of sweat equity into it, and I've seen him some nights up 12 midnight going around and ensuring that his e-scooters are in place and that they're not just laying all over public property. I would like to hear from, I guess you referred to is Officer Johnston, who met with some of you to talk about this issue, to come in and just publicly state, some of the challenges.
Well, they're public stated here today, two of the challenges right here, because as you keep referring to, we're on YouTube. But at the same time, I can go either way, and I understand how Taft put capital in this. He worked very hard with it, and some of our emails we received from him, and he's saying he's following these rules and that rules. But this has come from staff, and they're saying, we should put a pause on it, and that's just my personal opinion, until all of these things, and it's more than the e-scooters, your worship. We understand that, because we all grown up where everybody just drives through a stop sign. There's even people using vehicles that drive through stop signs, as the police can probably say. But at the same time, it's the attitude of people driving, that stop signs to some people doesn't mean anything. But getting off the tandem here. But what do you want to do? Councillor Beck, sorry, Chief.
Go ahead,
If I could
Chief.
just weigh in, certainly, if it gives committee, a little better perspective, we'd be happy to arrange that presentation for Constable Johnson to come in, and I know it's a tough decision, and we want to do the right thing by certainly young entrepreneurs, but there's a public safety component to this, and so to make sure everyone's fully conformed, we'd be happy to arrange that and maybe park this until that can happen.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chief, and I think that we're trying to touch all the bases, and Constable Johnston, I believe, is the front person on this whole matter, so he sees and hears everything about it, and if we pass this or don't pass this, does this recommendation goes to council, does it not, to be voted on? Is that well, that's what I want to find out. Is this a decision we're making here is it, I don't know if.
Dan Jenkins, could you fill us in on that, or maybe not? And we got to remember too, it was operational, plus it was a pilot. And there's a lot of things that came through as pilot projects everywhere that didn't work the following, once the pilot was over. Go ahead, Dan, sir.
I guess I would defer to the chief in terms of what direction he's looking for, if this is purely an operational item or if he's looking for the approval of council to make this.
Thanks, Dan. Chief?
You know, certainly, we're looking, you know, there's a public safety component to this, but I think as your worship has indicated, it kind of bleeds into a lot of other aspects of growth in our city and active transportation and what we're trying to accomplish here. So I think there's a broader conversation to have and some greater understanding for all of us to get our heads around how we're going to move forward here and support these initiatives. So, you know, I think a presentation and then some healthy discussion with council probably would be the best way forward.
Okay, let's try and set up a date.
So, Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so in the short term, you have an entrepreneur who's gearing up for a season, who's looking for extended hours and extended days and 24-hour service and I mean, so if we're going to be doing a presentation and getting more information, I mean, we're going to have to do this sooner as opposed to later. This can't be, you know, if we're not extending the pilot, or if the staff is not extending the pilot, this entrepreneur needs to know that his plans are going to look really different for the summer of 2024. So just.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So what's good for everybody? Chief, go ahead, Councillor Beck.
I don't need another presentation. I think the issues have been identified. I think this was an operational decision that was made. I think the concerns have been expressed. I think we go back and look at get the work started. I think we have to to the deputy's point, we let the operator know that we are suspending. We are suspending for this year, but I think council should be aware of what has transpired. And but I think we get moving on it, and I'm not sure what the process is from here on in, but I don't feel that there's a need to spend a lot of more time in terms of reiterating the issues that we already know, that we're already aware of. But if we are suspending, I think council should be made aware for information purposes, as iterated in here, that we are suspending the scooters for this year.
Thank you. So okay.
So just for clarity then, if this is a staff recommendation, then it should not be reading, staff recommends that council suspend all scooter rentals, because it's not council suspending it, it's staff. So we need to make this clear, what it is we're doing.
Could I just go back,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair? I don't know if we all received the information. I don't know what information you're talking about. I didn't speak to Dale Johnston about this, Constable Dale Johnston. I didn't hear this information. And I'm sure 7 other members of council never heard it either. So, as a teacher, as a former teacher, knowledge is power. So the knowledge that we would get from understanding that we're not just talking about e-scooters, Councillor Beck, we're talking about the whole, there are a number of issues related to this. Traditional cycling, e-biking, bike share, e-scooters. So, I think the chief has also said, do we need more information? Again, more information allows not only for the members of this council chamber to know, but because it's being live streamed, they get an understanding too of the concerns that are related. Look, I've heard many times, especially with the facility up on Houston Street, you have people just riding around with bikes on, riding all over the place. Not e-bikes, not scooters, but just traditional bikes. So there is a bigger issue here I think we all need to put in one big package and discuss and get the information from the people that are on the ground, such as Constable, that being Constable Johnston. So, look, I'd like to pause it. If you want to go by suspending it, you can suspend it, but I prefer to pause it, and we can notify the vendor or the owner of the e-scooters that, look, there's discussion continuing on about this, so put everything on hold. Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
You can.
Yeah, that's what I'm recommending, that we pause this, that we suspend. I'm supporting the suspension of and I am also supporting informing council that we are suspending it, or that the operation is being suspended pending a comprehensive look at our bylaws to encapsulate all those other elements that we're looking at.
Pause
So
for
I
me
want to
is-
be,
Pause for me is you go in, hold. Suspension means you've told him he's done. I'm asking, pause, get the chief and Dale to come in, and then council can have a full discussion on this operational issue.
pause or suspend for me is the same.
No, it's not to me. I'm not,
I don't
want to
think,
suspend it.
I don't want this issue to die. I want us to look at regulations and our bylaws if we're going to go down this road, not only for e-scooters, but for bikes as well, too. So I'm not recommending, or I don't want it to be interpreted that I'm saying that we put this to bed for good. I want to make sure that we're doing it right.
And, Mr. Chair, last point, that if we're discussing, if we included provincial regulations under the Highway Traffic Act, I'd like to have a more fully understanding of what the Highway Traffic Act states or addresses on e-scooters regarding this issue. And if we have to make changes, we can ask the legislature to look at those changes to be part of a path forward. Thank you.
Okay,
Just one last question. So Dale would be presenting to all of council, not coming back here. All of council.
so do we have a special meeting Monday? Could you put that in the agenda, your worship, or what do you want to do?
So just
It's on
on
the agenda now.
It is?
Yeah. We'll put it on. We'll tell Jackie to forward it.
For what?
We'll get Jackie, or I will forward it to Tracy to put it on the agenda for
For when
Monday.
though? Because like I'm like the deputy mayor, like this gentleman, this is almost the end of March, and this gentleman be gearing up right now, trying to think that he's gonna go ahead with his business. And I'm like you, Councillor Beck, too, like we don't have all the answers. Council does not have all the answers, not just us four, but you know, we gotta have Councillor Dale Johnson in and
So-
explain everything.
Next Tuesday, the 26th, is our fourth Tuesday, so we'll put it on that agenda.
Okay, and I'm okay with that, because I think that's part of the council being informed. If Dale's presenting, I didn't want Dale to come back and present to us or anything here.
No.
But if he's going in and that's going to be part of informing council, that he
Right.
comes in and speaks to it, show that everyone else is there, I'm good with that.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
So, thank you, Chair. So I think we need to make this crystal clear. Is this an operational item or is this a governance for council? Because if we're taking this to council, are we asking council to make the decision or is this an operational decision? We get ourselves constantly into this pickle and then it becomes a political thing. Is it political or is it operational? So that needs to be clear before we move forward, doesn't it?
100%.
Great.
Great point. They, yeah, Chief?
I think in reality, Chair, that it's probably both. There's an economic development component to this and an operational component. And that's, I think, why everyone is kind of wanting to make sure everyone is fully informed here and the potential implications of doing this.
So, is the committee good of having Constable Dale Johnson in next Tuesday to put this on the agenda with our meeting?
I'll put it on the agenda.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah.
I know you're still a little leery on it.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
As long as it's a clear, concise reason for the presentation, so that council's not there to make a decision, that we're not equipped to make this decision.
That's correct. It's an operational thing. Yeah, and I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm agreeing with you. Okay, let's do that. Brad, could you set that up with Constable Dale Johnson?
Will do, Chair.
So that we can, so all council would hear the concerns, the pros and the cons, if they have any questions and things along that line. Is that fair?
Thank you, sir.
Anything for you, your worship. Okay, next one, Chief Brad McConnell, I guess. You're still up.
Your worship, our fourth and final report is to update council on the relocation of the Charlottetown Outreach Center to Park Street. As you're aware, Charlottetown Outreach Center is in the process of relocating. It's my understanding that it will move. It will move this weekend on the 22nd. They're on schedule to do that. There are scheduled interactions with the neighbors for tonight with Park Street staff. Our officers will join Park Street staff to go knock on doors in the area of influence to certainly inform residents, but also an opportunity to engage them and hear their concerns and how we can work together to lessen the impact that this move might have. So I don't think there's any big revelations in this report, Chair, but just to keep everyone informed that these door knocks will be happening tonight.
Yes, it's just an update for the residents and for everybody else that would like to be included in that, from what I'm understanding with this. Any questions on this?
I have a question.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
So Charlottetown Police are going door to door as well as staff, provincial staff or NGO staff, or do we know? And when we say the area of influence, are we talking about just the Park Street? Or are we talking about what used to be called that 20-minute radius? Because that's a much bigger area than just the Park Street. So just if we can have that clarity of what does this actually mean?
Chief, can you give us the details, please?
Yes, Chair. Certainly, yeah, it's the staff at both the housing component and the new outreach center. So whether those are a mix of NGOs and provincially contracted staff, that they will be joining our officers to engage residents in that conversation piece. And I think they'll be working out from kind of the start point and going as far as they can to engage as many residents. And I will certainly be keeping my eye on this and meeting with staff today at 2 p.m. I will want to make sure that residents in most of the area that we've heard concerns from, or if not all residents we've heard concerns are engaged and have an opportunity to be part of this discussion. And I look forward to reporting back to council and committee here about what we heard.
Yeah, and just to, I think we understood is that it's just not the Park Street residents that are going to be informed. It's going to be part of Euston Street and, I shouldn't say Euston Street, what's that other street there?
Kensington Road.
Yeah, it's a whole area, I think, around there, Deputy Mayor. Like, it isn't just
Yeah,
Beach Street.
it was a 20-minute identified area. I don't know who identified that.
Yeah, and I
but
think
it's
that's
a
being
20
organized by the
minutes.
province, isn't it? Housing and everything? Am I wrong or right?
Yes, it is a provincially led initiative, and certainly as a stakeholder and because of the resident impact, and we certainly want to be part of this and make sure the residents know that our police service is there for them and it would be responsive and certainly accessible as we enter into this new stage.
Any other questions on that? Deputy Mayor, you okay? Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, appreciate what the chief is doing, because the chief did it back there on September 5th when we met at Birchwood. He went door to door, made sure the presence of the city of Charlottetown was out front, informing the residents what's going on. He's doing the same for this relocation. And, we need to find out where the problems is with their community action plan. Remember that community action plan that was tabled in the House back in October 26, 2023? And in that community action plan was to establish a community action task force that would be made up of provincial, municipal, stakeholders. And there would be a community or neighborhood Advisory Committee. And, you know, we've met with government about this, and we're going to have other meetings, and I think future meetings should include yourself, because you know what? It's all about safety and security, and I think we're doing our part, especially through the leadership of Chief Brad McConnell, to make sure, look, we're here. We're not going away. We will be present. There are boots on the ground. Red Shores, a racetrack and casino have installed 30 cameras. They have 2 around-the-clock security officers. They built 2 outposts, one on the east side, one on the west side, west side close to Beach Street, one closer to the east side being Exhibition Drive. So, you know, everything is being done. But the province has to be part of working together with the city of Charlotte. I think that's the deal I thought we made, and it's for 12 months. And I think we're asking, what's the longer-term plan? You know, I think we're going to run out of gas. We're going to run out of planning possibilities in terms of variances and so forth if the province doesn't make a long-term decision on what they want to do with the mental health, the drug addiction, the misuse of alcohol, the unhoused, people living rough, and unemployed. So, again, I commend the chief and our police services, and I know our fire services are always present in assisting whatever police services are trying to do in terms of trying to keep our community safe and secure. So, I think, you know, we as a political body, that is the City Council of Charlottetown, we have to step up more and make sure that we're addressing or getting these ask, and we thought were going to be carried out, which I think they will be. This community joint task force made up of provincial, municipal officials, stakeholders, and that community or the neighborhood advisory committee. So let's see where it goes, and we're all working together. Thank you.
Yeah, and as we say, that was just informative for everybody that's going to be happening the next day or so, or tonight, I believe it starts,
Chair?
Chief. Oh, sorry.
You finish on that?
Yeah, and, you know, and we all know that, I don't want to throw the province underneath the bus or anything like that, but they got work to do also within this year to do it. And as you stated too, your worship, our police and our fire are right front and center all the time, and we have nothing but kudos for them, and we thank them for that. Go ahead, Deputy Chair.
Yeah, so it should be noted in the report details that the Charlottetown Outreach Center staff have advised that there'll be a gap in services from March 22nd up until the first week of April. I don't know what that means, but we should just be aware of that. I'm not sure if there's going to be a press release by the province about that for the folks that frequent the services and what they might be doing, but I guess we'll await to see whether or not there's an announcement around that for our residents if they call us.
Chief, maybe you can look into that or make a note of that, maybe?
Certainly, I can endeavor to get some clarity on that.
Thank you very much. Okay. Introduction of new business. We said, where's Dan? We can do this? Fire Chief Tim Mamie, just give us one moment here, folks, we get set up.
Okay.
Too many chairs, Dan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we determined that probably it's not necessary to bring the issue to a closed session at this time, Chief. I think the urgency is not, doesn't require the closed session, and I think the practice, although it's not required by the MGA and I didn't completely scour the procedural bylaw, certainly the practice of giving public notice and media notice of closed sessions is always good, just in terms of the transparency piece. So I think in this case, we'll probably defer this issue for another time.
Very good. You okay with that, Chief?
Well, understanding with Director Jenkins, and we had this question, just like to bring some matters to the attention of the committee, and that would be in an open session, so no need to go to the closed. If we can just carry on with that, I just advise the committee of a couple of concerns from this end.
We okay with that?
No, I'm not. I think the chief wants to share something with us in a closed session that could intersect with the,
No, he's saying open session.
well, I know, but my preference is what he asked for at first, which was a closed session. But because of the MGA, the Municipal Government Act, and the procedural bylaw, you have to give notice, and even to put it on the agenda today, that requires notice too. I know we've been asked. That's what we have to do. If I
Even
want
under new business, you have to have that on the agenda?
I have, yeah, I've done it. I've been told by administration that if I want to put anything under new business, I have to give a notice of motion. I've done it before.
Oh, I thought new business was just anything that
No.
was brought up on the floor.
I've done it several times.
Perhaps we could get some clarity from Director Jenkins on whether or not it can be a unanimous yes to bring up under new business, or how that looks for committee meeting.
I think out of respect for his worship's concerns with the procedural aspect of bringing the item to the floor, open or closed, I think we can defer. That would be my advice. I think the chiefs has some concerns, but I think there perhaps are some other ways we can communicate those. As I understand it, it's not information that requires a decision at this time, so, but perhaps important information for councillors to be aware of.
And Chair, could I just interject once more? All it is about is that the rules apply to all of us, and I believe in the rules, because in the past, we've used that new business, I know in previous councils, to put stuff on the agenda at the last minute, and nobody knows. Then they find out through live stream, or they find out from someone in the street. So no disrespect to the chief. I understand what you're trying to do, chief. I would be more than willing to meet tomorrow at noon in an emergency meeting in a closed session on this issue. I'm standing ready to
Yeah,
move
you
on.
love your meetings.
Your worship, I'd be in support of that.
Good.
Okay. So what do you want to do? You want to meet tomorrow?
Yeah, if we want to meet as a committee, I'm more than willing to come back. It's 1:30, so we can have the meeting at 2 o'clock. It's 24 hours.
Councillor Beck?
I'm just looking at my schedule.
Busy man.
I'm tied up till about, I wouldn't be available till probably 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Well, we're looking at around 2-ish.
And I wouldn't be available until 3:45.
To when?
3:45.
Okay. I don't know, what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
We good for 4 o'clock?
For me.
Like, it's not gonna take now and forever, I don't think, chief, is it? It's just a few items you just want to clarify and go over with us. Okay, let's say 4 o'clock tomorrow here. I don't think the police has to come in there. If he wants to drop in, just say hi to us. Yeah, it's more power to him. Jill'll be home anyway. Oh, he will be, okay, chief. Yeah, okay, thank you,
4 o'clock?
yeah. I need a motion for adjournment. Moved by Mayor Brown, second by Deputy Mayor Yankoff. Thank you very much, everybody.